Yeah, the truth is, the question is, how do we fight against hate in America? How do we get rid of this hate and this division and this racism? The truth is, the word race was made up. Race isn't an actual definition of people. White America created the word to continue division among people. There isn't actually any scientific or genetic markers to determine race among people. It's just a word used to divide and create hate. When we can look at these narratives, when we can look at stereotypes and start to see the inappropriateness in our thinking and the words that we speak, when we can consciously say to ourselves, oh, wait a minute, I'm not sure that that's okay, you will start to open your eyes to see truth and to realize we have to stop being part of the problem. And every day I have to work on it. I'm not going to lie. I'm dealing with years of indoctrination in my brain of whitewashed America. I have stereotypes even today that sometimes they just pop in. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. That's not okay. But I have to make an effort every day to be conscious of what I say and how I think and my initial reactions to things. Because I have to hold myself accountable for what I think and what I speak. Just like you need to hold yourself accountable and those around you that you love and the people that you are friends with, we need to start holding each other accountable out of love for each other and out of love to see genuine change in this country. You ask, how do we change this system, right? How do we change a systemic racism in this country? The truth is, you cannot change a racist society until all the people who benefit from it are willing to give it up. Think about that. Whether you are directly responsible for building this system, for participating in it, you will always benefit from it as a white person. And even if you don't want to acknowledge white privilege, guess what? It acknowledges you. And you benefit every day of your life from it. So until we can stand up and say, take it back. I want everybody to benefit from being American citizens. I want everybody to benefit because it is the right thing to do. It will not change. So those of us who benefit have to be willing to stand up and say, it's not okay anymore. I no longer want to benefit from the blood, sweat, and tears of people of color in this country, what they sacrificed and what they had to go through so I could have these benefits. It's not okay. And it's not right. And just because you may not agree with it or you may not want to see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And silence is our enemy. So the way you want to fight against hate in this country, start seeing the reality of what we live in. Start seeing the reality of the words spoken by people in power, spoken by people in the media, spoken by your best friend or your parents. Words mean everything, and they are intentional. So start calling people out so they recognize in themselves that they need to change their thoughts and their mindsets on what is happening in this country. Because I know there's a lot of good people who aren't even aware of the fact that they have lived in a racist society and have been indoctrinated with beliefs and narratives that aren't even their fault. So they don't even realize that it's coming out racism or bigotry or all these thoughts. They don't realize they're even coming across that way because it's indoctrinated in their brains. So do them a favor. help them see it. It's uncomfortable. Believe me, Richard and I have had some very uncomfortable conversations with people. But the truth is, until we are all uncomfortable, we will never progress as a society free of racism, free of systemic racism, and free of hate and division of one another. And as Richard said, and Martin Luther King said, love is the answer, but with love comes accountability and holding each other accountable to those lies and stereotypes that we have got to break the habit of having. And then, only then, when we acknowledge we're benefiting from this horrific system and say no more, will we truly be able to change things.
You just shook the sleep out of eyes, didn't you, girl?
I did.
Part 3 is something special.
Yeah.
We're dealing with how to deal with hate in America. And for so many of us, we thought dealing with hate was just becoming colorblind. Right. And you kind of hit that dead in the mouth, and I'm so proud of you for it. Listen, the only way to deal with hate in America is by love. And the only way that we can show applicable love is to know the truth. Yeah. Because so many people are trying to fight this fight, and they're coming at it from the wrong angle.
So wrong.
And if you have the wrong angle, you're going to have the wrong delivery, which is going to cause your love to be of ill effect. Listen, there's a great quote, and it's this: nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yes.
But if you don't know anything and you come at it from a perspective of I love you and it doesn't matter, you are going to shoot yourself in the foot when it comes to racism in America. Yeah. Black people are not interested in hearing somebody say, well, I just love you despite, right? Yes. No. You need to know a little bit of what I've been through before you can tell me you 100%. Love me. Because there's a reason why I'm a porcupine. Right? There's a reason why I got some pricklies on me. Yeah. You coming at me telling me I'm an angry black man. Well, listen, we've been angry for a long time, right? We've been sad a long time. Yeah. And there's some historical reason for that. We created a whole genre of music called the blues because we're trying to express that pain and that hurt, right? In episode's number 1, there's a surprise in that. I hope you'll refresh your memory about that. And in episode 2, man, I've gone back and watched it myself. That's how good it is. So thank you for being a part of part 3. What happened in part 1?
Well, we wanted to give a big thank you to all of our amazing subscribers and helping us hit our goal of 1,000 subscribers. And you guys surpassed that wonderfully as well. And so as a thank you, we wanted to give away a $50 Amazon gift card to you. So in order to do that, there's 4 things what we need you to do. The first one is you have to be a subscriber to enter into the contest. So if this is your first time visiting this channel, please hit the subscribe button.
That's right.
Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on our videos. Then like or dislike the video, and then please leave us a comment. Tell us about your thoughts on the video and the content that we talked about. And then the last thing is in video part 1, at some point in that video.
Only video 1.
Only video 1. There's going to be a password that will appear on the screen at some point. So take that password, write it down, and then shoot us an email with that password, and then we'll enter you in to win the sweepstakes. All that information is going to be in the description, so you'll know exactly what to do. We're going to give everybody a chance to watch this video series because it's an amazing series, and then we will definitely pick a winner randomly, and we will let you know who that is the following week.
So excited. I hope you'll enjoy episode number 3 as it follows.
You know, and then you ask yourself, okay, where does all this hate leave us, right? Where does all these hundreds of years of indoctrination of white supremacy and division and fear and where does this lead us to? Well, this leads us to a 21-year-old white man shooting up Asian parlors in Atlanta. And, you know, the death of 8 people. And even more
frightening than that, and I want you to give the stats of what happened. It leaves us in a society where a white, I believe, chief, but he may have just been in the overseer of the case, makes excuse for that white male for shooting up that Asian spa, saying he had a bad day, saying he had a rough addiction. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I mean, so let's talk about this for a minute. A couple weeks ago, a man shoots up 3 different Asian massage parlors and spas. Now, the officer that Richard was just talking about, the arresting officer whose name was Captain Jay Baker, he reported directly to the media, specifically stating, first of all, that this was not a hate crime. Now, first of all, who is he to tell the world that this was not a hate crime? That's not his job. And the funny thing is, this captain was also a racist who was caught selling T-shirts that he made up online that said imported virus from China, COVID-19. And he's going to stand up there on national TV and tell us that this kid who just murdered 8 people and targeted 3 Asian spas, that this was not racially motivated.
What was it?
This was a sexual addiction that he had, that he felt that he wanted to remove the temptation in his life. And so that is what he was doing. It wasn't hate. It wasn't racially motivated. He was eliminating his own temptation in his life or his sex addiction.
Now, have you ever been to Atlanta?
I have. I love Atlanta.
Do you know how many prostitution organizations he had to drive past?
Oh my gosh.
To get to these women's Asian
Yeah, if it truly was a temptation,
street prostitutes he drove past.
Yes, he could have passed.
Strip joints he passed by.
Yeah, actual sex clubs. Like, these were massage parlors, and they haven't been even stated that these were even sex massage parlors at all. He just said that they were, because he said that he had frequented them before, so he knew that they were having sexual desires fulfilled outside of the massages. But that's just him saying that. That is not these businesses saying that that is what it was happening here.
Can I throw a trigger out here? White privilege.
Oh, I know.
Now, I know you're going to get upset with me, but here's the reality. You have a white police officer selling coronavirus T-shirts on his personal webpage, calling it the China whatever. I don't know exactly what he's calling it, but his implications are deep-rooted in hate.
Said COVID straight from China.
Okay.
Or imported from China.
Imported from China. Okay. So now you have obviously this gentleman coaching him on what to say as a privilege. Now I wish that African Americans, people of color, had the same privilege when they were falsely arrested or falsely accused for so many crimes that they've been falsely accused for. Yeah. Hey, I want you to say this publicly. I'm going to stand in front of the cameras and say that he was just having a rough day. He's a really good guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to calm my ass down.
Calm down there, baby. Like, the truth is, if this was not a racially motivated hate crime, then please tell me why he drove an hour out of his way to hit another Asian parlor.
Was on his way to another Asian parlor when they caught him.
Oh, that's right. He was on his way. An hour out of his way. He was driving an hour away from where he was already when he shot and killed multiple people. Look, there was plenty of places between there and an hour away that he could have targeted if this was strictly a eliminating temptation crime. But let's be real, this was a target against Asian women. Period. And we got into some serious arguments and debates with people over that topic, and supporting the Stop Asian Hate and Asian Lives Matter, and it got some pretty ugly on that one.
You know what's amazing to me about that is and maybe I'll take the time to find them, but I said Black Lives Matter on my Facebook page. I had nearly 1,000 comments, right? Probably 500 of them extremely negative. I said Asian Lives Matter, right? I got hundreds, probably nearly 500 negative comments on it.
Yeah.
And I said all lives matter. And it's crickets.
Yep.
Right?
No, you said Boulder Lives Matter.
Oh, Boulder Lives Matter. Yeah.
Yeah, in regards to the Boulder shooting.
And someone had the audacity to say it was satire.
Right.
Right. The fact that you can think that it's a joke.
Right.
Is the joke about the society we live in.
Well, and then one gentleman actually commented on your post saying, like, why are you spreading hate? Like, why are you spewing hate? And I remember saying to him, I'm confused. How is telling the truth spreading hate? Is that simple? And he couldn't respond.
Right.
Because speaking truth right now in this society, people are calling that hate, and they are calling us the racists because we are exposing the truth and the lies of what this country tells everybody.
Reverse psychology of propaganda, deception, and really just deciding that they are the ones that have the right to decide what language to use at what time, right? What is appropriate and what is not appropriate. Who has the moral high ground and who doesn't have the moral high ground, right? But you can't create a language. I had a brother tell me that that I needed to stop using color in my dialogue. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you all have white people that you love. White people that are very important to you. White people that you care about deeply. And my question was, you just use color to define what I wasn't supposed to do. So the issue is not so much the use of race to communicate good or evil or bad decisions or poor decisions. It's the person that is supposed to have the right to do it. Right? And so this person, thinking that they were white, they thought that they had the right to say, don't talk about white people.
Yeah. Don't talk about color.
Don't talk about color. Don't talk about white people. Let's talk about black on black crime.
Right.
Which then I, of course, responded, it's not black on black crime. It's proximity crime, right? And then I got into the whole reality that all murders committed against white people, 71% at the lowest, mostly higher than that, are committed by other white people. Silence, crickets, right? Because we know that the population of white people in America is so much higher. So then they want to talk about violent crimes committed, the majority of which are committed by black people. It's impossible because the number of crimes committed, 71% of them are committed by white people.
I know. You know,
I'm just saying, use your brain, bro.
Yeah. I mean, you have to think outside the white box of whitewashed America.
And I love you.
Yeah. Now, many people said that, you know, all these crimes and attacks that have been going on, they're not racially motivated, right? They're not hate crimes. But let me give you a few of recent crimes specifically against Asian people. In New York City, a 65-year-old Asian woman was knocked down and beaten in front of her apartment building, and no one did anything. They just watched. In San Francisco, a white male in his 30s attacked two elderly Asian people in the street on the same day. The elderly woman, now if you haven't caught the video, you should definitely see it. But now this Asian woman beat his ass and sent him to the hospital after he had already beaten her up and knocked her down. I saw his face. It was pretty jacked up. Right? Good for her. She was like, no, you're not going to take me down. I'm going to beat your ass for it. And she did, boy. In Los Angeles, a white male drove his car through a crowd of Stop Asian Hate peaceful protesters yelling, "Fuck China." I mean, people, it's just out of control. Like, there's so much hate. And this is what's so stupid and how people are so ignorant. They are attacking American citizens. Like, because people see American as white in this country. So when people yell to black people, go back to Africa, they yell to Asians, go back to China, they're from this country. They live in this country. They are American citizens, people. But yet, because of this white supremacist ideology, because of all this hate and fear we've been indoctrinated to believe in these narratives, we do not see anybody who is not white as Americans.
Tell it.
That is just the truth. And it's not my opinion. People just watch the news. See the examples of the stupidity that comes out of people. Attacking Asian people because, they brought the China virus over. They're from this country. It blows my mind how ignorant people are. That you don't stop and think about, like I said, with Trump's speech on the Mexicans coming to this country, You don't know the difference in your brain between the immigrants and the American citizens. You think they're all one and the same. But we have to see color, because if we do not see color, we will not see who the true American people are. They are every color.
So good.
They are unique and beautiful and special, and we only see Americans as white.
Now, there's a lot of dialogue about the role of media.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
In creating it. And, obviously the people like Candace Owens,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Officer
Tatum.
He was forgive me. I'm not talking shit about you just because you a black conservative. I'm talking shit about you because you a wildcat. Who goes plays football in the desert? That's a whole different topic. However, I'm not much fond of you because you're a Republican and you talk crazy shit either. But there's cats like that say, hey, listen, every 4 years, there's going to be a racial dialogue that's going to occur.
Sure.
Democrats are going to try to manipulate the vote.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that they're going to manipulate the vote is by telling you that Republicans hate black people.
Yep.
And they're going to juice you up about how evil the Republican Party is and how racist it is. There is a degree of truth, unfortunately, in what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. Every time politics comes up, every time a vote comes up, race is introduced into that dialogue.
Yep.
Now, I think it's really, really important that we begin to recognize that we can't allow that to happen, right?
Yeah.
Republicans or Democrats, we need to keep at the forefront people of color's priorities, or no vote, right? We shouldn't just be talking about it for the presidency election. We should be talking about it for the school board election. We should be talking about it for the governor's race. We should be talking about it for the CEO of our company. We should be talking about how valid is it to just dismiss this coach without really investigating him in the NFL, in the NBA, in our Pop Warner team, right? We need to begin to look at why are people in positions of authority and power when maybe they don't qualify for it, and it's just a white privilege thing that it's assumed that they're getting this position.
Yep.
We need to question it at every level. I think you're 100% right in regards to the negative approach of it. But far too often, and for my entire life, I have seen the media time and time again paint blacks as savages, as barbaric, as people that are violent, where, obviously I come home and I don't see the same picture. I don't hear the same song. They talk about black fatherlessness in America, and I have never seen that song. I've never heard that dance. Have I seen fathers that are not always present in the home? Sure. But I see white parents who I would go over their house and I'd be like, hey, where's your dad at? He's been trucking across the country for the last 2 weeks. He'll be home next week. Or my dad works as a firefighter. He's gone 4 days of the week, and then he's here 3 days a week. He usually sleeps for 2 days of the week, and he's really engaged on the seventh day of the week, right? Yeah. And so we don't talk about those elements of absentee fathers. We don't include those in our stats, but we only talk about black fathers who maybe visit every other week, right? Yeah. Who have their kids on a state mandated deal or whatever it is, or they just have non-conventional ways of seeing their children or non-conventional ways of calling themselves a family unit, right? I've seen black men engage in their families forever. Yeah. I've seen black men engage in their family through hell and high water. Yeah. I've seen black men, and you see it through our interview series, who will go through anything to contribute to their child's upbringing, development, maturity, well-being, instilling good moral values in their life. As a matter of fact, I see far more black fathers having a positive role than I do a negative role. Now, is there some? Absolutely. That is a consequence of poverty. Where there is poverty, you're going to have broken hope. When you have broken hope, you're going to have people that cast off cares, and when you have people that cast off cares, you're going to have a high degree of drug use, high degree of alcoholism. Those things are going to lead to absenteeism, right? All issues that we need to address about the black community. Issues that we have been addressing and we fight extremely hard. But if you want to talk about redlining, then you got to talk about why are there not liquor stores in every corner of white America, but there happens to be a liquor store in every corner of black America. You got to begin to understand, why is there gun dealerships and pawn shops that are selling guns in every block in black communities, but you have to drive to a specific warehouse or a gun show that comes once a year to buy a gun if you're in white rural America. So you have to begin to look at it not only in the small picture, but you have to begin to look at it in the big picture. And time again, the media has skewed the image of the African American community and people of color. So I'd love you to break it down just through your eyes, because obviously they're blue, not brown, and it would give our audience a little bit of an insight on it.
Yeah. You know, I hadn't ever really thought about this. You know, we all see the stories of the latest stuff going on, usually not anything good. And we see them all over the news stations, newspapers, all this stuff. And I never really thought about the titles and the labeling of these things until one day, a few weeks ago, it hit me. And I realized that any time a crime had been committed by somebody who was white, we rarely saw their picture in the news. However, when the criminal was black, their face was plastered all over it. So we're going to actually put some images up on the screen for you guys to see, so you can see what I'm talking about here. But the first one is, now I took all of these from MSN, and because I wanted to have the same news source on all their topics to be able to get the feel of what they were being broadcasted as. So this one was about the Asian murders in Atlanta, and it says, what to know about the Atlanta massage parlor shootings. And on the front of it is just a picture of one of the spas. Now, I couldn't find anywhere in any news report a picture of the 21-year-old white male who shot them all and murdered them. Not one image of him in any of the news stories. Then you go to Boulder. And in Boulder, they're talking about the 21-year-old man who killed and murdered 10 people. Now, this image says, Boulder shooting live updates, 21-year-old charged in rampage that monstrously struck down 10 at grocery store. And it is just a picture of a Boulder police cop vehicle with, it looks like, some flowers on the hood. No pictures of the shooter. There was a story over spring break, I believe in Florida, and there was a story that a 24-year-old Philadelphia woman was found dead in a hotel room, and 2 African-American young men were being charged in this crime. So the headline says, spring breaker drugged, raped, and left for dead, identified as 24-year-old Philadelphia woman. And in the pictures are the mugshots of both of the 2 African-American men. Now, I do want to point out, I read through this article and I read a few other articles on this. In the articles, they even say they don't know if she was technically raped by them. They all were seen going in the hotel room together, obviously partying together. They don't know whether they were responsible for her death. They don't know that they left knowing that she was dying. They don't know any of these facts. All that they do know is that they went into her hotel room and they left. She was still in there. They did find her cell phone and wallet in their possession, but that is the only facts that they actually know. But yet, the headline says, spring breaker drugged, raped, and left for dead. And pictures of 2 African-American young men on the front. And then again, the same story about this woman says, friends, family try to make sense of Pennsylvania woman's death during Miami spring break trip. However, there is not a picture of this woman. It is, again, the picture of one of the African-American boys who they have in custody right now. Then, again, I believe it was Atlanta again. A man was arrested in a Publix grocery store who was found with multiple weapons on him. He actually went into the restroom. Somebody saw him and thankfully were able to call the cops, and the cops were waiting for this gentleman when we came out of the restroom, so nobody died. But this headline says, man arrested with 6 guns, body armor at Publix grocery store. And the picture in the caption, just the weapons, not the picture of the white man who walked into the store ready to kill people. And then again, there was another story on that particular one too. It says, man with 5 guns, body armor, detained in Atlanta grocery store. Picture of cop cars outside. There's no pictures of the white man who walked into that store. And then there was another one, and I'll let Richard read this one because this is actually from one of his friends, that it just really broke my heart when I saw this post and this newspaper and what they printed, and I'll let him talk about it.
Of all of them, it probably is the one that upset me the most.
Yeah.
Because they didn't even try.
Right.
I mean, they didn't even pretend. It's by a dear friend of mine, Bean O'Brien, who will be on one of our interview series podcasts, and I can't be more excited about him coming on. He probably the one individual that helped me reach my full potential at the UW more than any other player. Just a true inspiration. But he says, whatever our people are going through, please stop talking bad about them. It only enhances their narrative. DMX wasn't beloved, greatly loved, admired. And it does it in a question mark. And it says in the Daily News, sorrow from Britain to Yonkers. Beloved royal is gone at the age of 99. The Prince. And it shows a picture of the Prince. A white gentleman nodding his hat in honor. Then it says, and the rapper, brilliant but troubled musician, dies at 50.
See, people look at this and they don't see what is so wrong with this because we are so brainwashed to accept these narratives. But it's all in the wording. Brilliant but troubled musician dies at 50. But
DMX was a role model, a hero.
He was loved by many people.
Beloved by thousands, hundreds.
Yeah.
I mean, he is not only a hip hop or a rap sensation. He was for real down.
Yeah.
I mean, he held our community down, and he was an inspiration of hope to people who had no future to look to. And this kind of an article absolutely disgustes me. Anyone that has an opportunity to protest the Daily News, what paper was that again?
This is actually New York's hometown newspaper.
I would encourage you never to read that paper.
But people, this is what we try to bring home time and time again. Look at the wording. See through the lies and the narratives that we have been made to believe. Again, those words, brilliant but troubled musician, that continues the narrative that this man had some problems. He was, drug addict, maybe a criminal, maybe did some bad stuff. He had a rocky life, But that is a narrative. That's only one side of a story. There are so many other sides to stories that we are never taught or they don't want us to believe. Just like all these news articles I went over, when it's somebody, a person of color, their faces are splashed all over the news. Every horrible thing that the world thinks they ever did is instantly out to social media, instantly out to the world. But here we've got multiple articles of these 2 white shooters recently and no pictures of them. No criminal record stories, no stories about their horrible lives, all the terrible things that they did. Because again, this installs the narrative that people of color are bad. People of color don't deserve justice. They don't deserve to live because they're criminals. I mean, I had somebody tell me the other day that George Floyd got what he deserved because he was a drug addict. I mean, this is how far we have fallen, people. This is where we have come because of our history and our repetitive behaviors of the white supremacist ideologies in this country, that we would say that a man deserved what he got because he had a drug addiction.
I tearfully watched a clip of DMX. He's getting on a ride with his beautiful little girl.
Yeah.
And he's steadying her. He's holding her hand. And he says, okay, it's going to go up now. And so they go up. And he says, you're going to be all right. And the little girl's nervous, but she's excited. She's on a ride with her dad, and the ride explodes, and the little girl starts screaming. She starts saying, "Daddy's here. Daddy's here."
Yeah.
We don't love our children any less than you.
Yeah.
Our children don't love us any less than they love yours. Than they love you. When can we as a society get past this hate and get to the truth that we all love the same? We all bleed the same. We all hurt the same. And this paper would disrespect this man, this father. It's heartbreaking.
A son, a brother, a father. I mean,
and good in all those roles.
Yeah, he did great things for his community, for people. He was a good person. And to see his name be tarnished because of a narrative that this country continues to try to fulfill when it comes to people of color is just disgusting.
And I'm okay with you telling the whole story. I don't mind you telling the whole story. Sure, tell the whole story. But don't lead with black is bad and white is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a damn atrocity and it's not the truth.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I had a situation on one of Richard's posts when he was talking about, was it the Asian Lives Matter one, I think? Or
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was that one. So anyway, this woman gets on there and she makes a comment about how only racists make it about race, make it about color. And that, you know, Martin Luther King had talked about how we need to judge people by the content of their character, and that, you know, we need to stop talking about color. And so so I said to this woman, I said, you know what? I'm so glad you brought that up. I am so glad that you said only racists make it about race and make it about color. And I said, because that means now together we can fight against the white supremacist ideologies and the white America racism who made it all about color since the very beginning.
Tell it.
We are the ones who always made it about color. This country was founded on it and has continued for over 400 years to make sure that people of color knew their place. So this woman decides to private message me, right? So she sends me
not a good idea.
Yeah, no. So she sends me a DM and this really, really long message calling me out of my name, every foul name in the book that you can imagine. She threw at me, calling me names, and you know, I won't even go into it because it's pointless. But anyway, the whole point of her email was to basically tell me that I was an idiot, that I knew nothing about our history, and that if I think that Republicans are responsible for anything bad that has ever happened to people of color, then I am the dumbest person on the planet, because it is all the Democrats' fault. They did everything bad to people of color. Not one Republican ever owned a slave. Ugh, don't even get me started on that. But it was ridiculous. So again, throughout the whole message, she was just telling me again and again that I was dumb, I didn't know my stuff, that she was a teacher. So basically, F me because I didn't know what I was talking about, but she was a history teacher. Again, these are the people teaching our children. We need to, I think, maybe do some screening on our teachers, people. But anyway, so at the end of all of it, she going on and again, and then she ends it basically with, she didn't want to embarrass me on Facebook, which is why she private messaged me. Now, mind you, she blocks me. So I can't even respond to her, right? And I get the biggest kick out of people who think they're all that in a bag of chips and decide that they are going to message you and they're going to tell you off and everything, but they don't even have the balls to let you respond back to them. So anyway, she blocks me. I was like, this woman. So I said, hey, Richard, it's time that this woman gets a taste of her own medicine. So I had Richard post copies of her message to me on the Facebook post. Now look, I am not the type of person that typically does this. I'm not trying to embarrass people. I'm not trying to, you know, be a bitch about it. But the truth is, I said to Richard, I said, baby, it is time. we start holding people accountable for their atrocious behavior and mindsets. Too long have we gone by letting it slide as acceptable behavior because it's their opinion, right? We love our free right to speech. But enough is enough. And I said to him, I said, until we start holding people accountable for this behavior, for these mindsets, and the belief that they think there is no consequences to what they say and do to people, nothing is ever going to change. So we blasted it on Facebook, and she got a whole mouthful from a lot of people, and people who were appalled to find out she was a teacher, first of all, and disgusted by her beliefs and the fact that she was teaching our children. And of course, then she emails Richard privately and just, I don't understand. Why are you so upset? Blah, 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 blah. But the truth is, look, we have to start holding people accountable.
So good.
And tell them, hey, you have a right to believe that, but you know what? You have a right to believe it, but I have a right to educate you too. I have a right to say that you're wrong. And with those beliefs, sometimes there's consequences. And white America has never had to deal with the consequences of their racism and bigotry in this country. And now it is time for us to hold people accountable.
So good.
They need to hear the truth. They need to understand that it is not acceptable anymore to hear it. There was a quote by a woman named Audre Lorde, and she says, when we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard or welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it is better to speak.
So good.
Silence and complicity changes nothing. I hear so many people say, I'm not racist. I love everybody. I wouldn't treat anybody badly. But you're silent. You are not standing up for these people. You are not standing up for the people that are being treated horribly in this country. And that makes you just as guilty. We can no longer be afraid to offend people. We can no longer be afraid to step out and speak truth and speak wisdom to people because we're afraid of the repercussions, because people, this can't go on anymore like this. Enough is enough. And silence is our greatest enemy. And the truth is, the only change that can happen has got to come from white Americans, because we have to stand up and say, enough is enough.
You know, I'd said earlier that it's important that we not scratch unless we have an itch.
Yeah.
And we don't dance unless we hear music. We've gotten to a place in history where it's important for all of us not to scratch an itch just because it asks for attention. Mm-hmm. Not to dance to the music just because it's entertainment. And a lot of times I laugh at jokes that are inappropriate. Mm-hmm. And that is typically at a comedy setting, right? Where we're working through healing and we're working through feelings and emotions. And I don't think there's any better... I knew we were going to have an okay relationship when you brought me to the comedy jam that you brought me to. I said, we're gonna make it,
yeah.
Right? Because you got to be able to laugh through some painful stuff.
Yeah.
But there are jokes that happen at our workplace that are inappropriate.
Yeah.
And instead of us putting an end to it, we don't silence it by addressing it.
Yeah.
And I want to equip you just to on how you do it. Play the naive. When someone says a racial joke, say, what's so funny about that? Mm-hmm. I don't get it.
Yeah.
When someone says a sexist joke, say, I'm sorry, I'm confused. What is funny about that?
Yeah.
What's the punchline? What that does is it makes the joke teller uncomfortable and they have to explain it.
Yeah.
When you slow down and you hear a racist joke and they have to explain it to you, all of a sudden the comedy is lost.
Yeah.
And you realize, I'm a damn racist.
Yep.
Or I'm biased. Or I'm bigoted. Or I'm looking for a cheap joke with an easy punchline.
Yes.
don't scratch if there is no itch. And so when people start talking things like describing the person as black, say, I'm curious, why would you describe them as black before you describe them as the president of the company? Why would you describe that person as the black teacher instead of the teacher? You know, the principal of the school, the black guy. We need to stop that shit.
Yeah.
So if we can be a colorblind society to where it becomes to describing roles
Yes.
by color first, but if we're a colorblind society that dismisses the race of an individual
Yes.
because we don't respect the race of the individual, then we're not being colorblind. We're being a racist at a different level, biased at a different level, where we no longer appreciate and value all of that individual. We only appreciate and value what we're comfortable with that individual. And I have people all the time, and we'll end with this, your thought. But I have people come up to me all the time who say, Richard, I didn't recognize you. They'll call my private number, right? They'll call my cell phone, and they'll say, who's this? I'll say my name, and they'll say, no, it ain't. I say, oh, damn sure it is.
Right.
And they say, oh, okay, you sound different.
Yep.
They'll call me at work, and they'll say, oh, is Richard there? And if it's family or somebody who I haven't talked to in that context, they'll say, ooh, you sound different, right? Well, the key is that I sound like myself in the setting that is appropriate, right? And so what we have to understand is we have to recognize that the value of people is part of their culture, part of their background. And I'm not saying that we are defined by our race, but we are very defined by our cultures.
Yes.
And our cultures are associated with our nationality, are associated with our skin tone, are associated with our neighborhoods.
And this is what's problem with people saying we need to be colorblind.
Yeah.
Being colorblind says it's not okay to be you, but it's okay for me not to see you. So again, this is just another way that America has flipped the script to say, okay, well now we got to hide the racism. We got to not make it about race. So how do we do that but still keep people of color in a different place than us? Oh, well, we're all going to be colorblind. But being colorblind takes away who they are. It takes away the beauty of who they are. And so we're saying, hey, you can't be you anymore. Sorry. Not that we've really ever let you be you, but you definitely can't be you now. But I get to be okay not seeing you.
Mm-hmm. However, they see us when it comes to our job application.
Yes, they do.
They see us when it comes to our loan application.
Yep.
I know that all these things are supposed to be non-biased, okay? They see us when it comes to our credit report. You say, how do you know those things when they're not? It's not legal for them to see it. Mm-hmm. Why the hell else would they have it on the report?
Yeah.
Okay? Let's be honest. They see us when we walk in to cash the check.
Yes, they do. It's so true.
And so, while hate is not the answer, love is the answer.
Absolutely.
Okay? I love Dr. King's quote, and I'll bring it up almost every time I speak about race and race relations, is that, darkness can't drive out the dark.
Yeah.
Light must do that.
Only light can do that.
Only light can do that. Hate can't drive out hate. Only love can do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So we need a deep sense of love. But the problem with it is that when you say that you're colorblind, or you begin to enter into a place where you don't understand racial bias, or you don't accept systemic racism, or you begin to pretend as though it's not cool to talk about race in any other context other than we're all equal, right? Then all of a sudden what happens is we're not talking about love. We're talking about denial. And I don't prove that I love you by denying the faults of you.
Right.
I don't prove that I love you based on the fact that one eyebrow is higher than the other and I just ignore it, right? I prove that I love you by the reality that I embrace the fullness of you.
Yeah.
That I embrace, and your eyebrows are perfect, so I'm not talking about your eyebrows, but I'm talking about a society where we embrace the fullness of the other person, right?
For sure.
Their culture, their belief systems,
Yeah.
their understanding. And that's not to say we're not going to have disagreements, right?
Right.
But love casts out all fear.
Yeah.
Right? So I no longer fear having to change myself. Fear, I'll tell you when we become a colorblind society, when people aren't asking me, are you the same Richard?
Right. Yeah.
When I'm able to be Richard at work and Richard at home.
Mm-hmm.
When you're not so afraid of the Richard that cooks chitlins, and I don't cook chitlins, I eat chitlins, I love them. But I'm the Richard that cooks ribs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the Richard that's at church, right? Because they still say the truth is the most racist hour of the week is Sunday mornings, right? Because that's where we really expose that our character, our morality, our respect for diversity, none of that shit really matters because we worship differently.
Yeah, so true.
Right? And so when we begin to esteem each other, when we begin to allow that worship to mingle, right? We begin to understand that the value of man is not in the color of their skin, but by in the content of their character, where he's really talking about. That's when we begin to look at that little black little girl, that little black little boy, and we begin to praise them for who they are, not just because of the color of their skin. That's what he said. Mm-hmm. Not just because of the color of their skin. You remember that quote?
Uh-huh, I do. So misquoted by so many people.
You guys remember the quote, right? By the content of their character. That part of their color is always going to be there.
Yeah. You can't change the fact that your skin is dark.
But we need to become a society that begins to understand and value each other. Listen, this has been probably by this point a 5-part series.
Right, it might end up being.
That has been extremely powerful.
Yeah.
And I am so excited to have been a part of it. We're talking about how to deal with hate in America, right?
Yeah.
Well, the first thing is really this, is you have to come to a knowledge of the truth.
Yes.
The truth will begin to set you free. In that freedom, we have a choice. Mm-hmm. To either hoard that to ourselves or begin to give love freely.
Yeah.
And that's really how you begin to boil it all down, is you have to come to a knowledge of the truth.
Yeah.
So you have to accept that truth. And you have to begin to realize that that truth has perpetuated our society and broken our society and caused it to become unequal. Then you begin to share that truth, love through that truth, care through that truth, despite that truth.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, day by day, we begin to find people who are in a position of power making choices to allow people that are not in power to rise up. Because the truth is this, until white people catch a fever, they call it the jungle fever, right? I'm not talking about a sexual fever. I'm talking about a love fever.
Yeah.
Where they say, I'm going to love beyond just the color of a person's skin.
Yeah.
I'm going to love based on the principles of equality, principles of truth, principles of equity, principles of righteousness. Until we catch that fever, we're going to be struggling with this for years and decades to come. But we can make a change when we enter into that love.
Yeah, the truth is, the question is, how do we fight against hate in America? How do we get rid of this hate and this division and this racism? When we can look at these narratives, when we can look at stereotypes and start to see the inappropriateness in our thinking and the words that we speak, when we can consciously say to ourselves, oh, wait a minute, I'm not sure that that's okay, you will start to open your eyes to see truth and to realize we have to stop being part of the problem. You ask, how do we change this system, right? How do we change a systemic racism in this country? The truth is, you cannot change a racist society until all the people who benefit from it are willing to give it up. Think about that. Whether you are directly responsible for building this system, for participating in it, you will always benefit from it as a white person. And even if you don't want to acknowledge white privilege, guess what? It acknowledges you. And you benefit every day of your life from it. So until we can stand up and say, take it back. I want everybody to benefit from being American citizens. I want everybody to benefit because it is the right thing to do. It will not change. So those of us who benefit have to be willing to stand up and say, it's not okay anymore. I no longer want to benefit from the blood, sweat, and tears of people of color in this country, what they sacrificed and what they had to go through so I could have these benefits. It's not okay. And it's not right. And silence is our enemy. So the way you want to fight against hate in this country, start seeing the reality of what we live in. And as Richard said, and Martin Luther King said, love is the answer, but with love comes accountability and holding each other accountable to those lies and stereotypes that we have got to break the habit of having. And then only then, when we acknowledge we're benefiting from this horrific system and say no more, will we truly be able to change things.
Baby girl, that's what I'm talking about. Powerful truth right there. Hey, this has been an incredible series on how to deal with hate in America. And I'm so excited that you've been here. In our first video, I want to remind you, go back and watch all of the videos in our series. But in our first one, there will be a password that you can become a winner of our prize. And so that's going to be in the first video.
Yes, first video.
I hope that you've gotten a prize out of each one of these videos.
Yeah.
A prize that will change your life, change your family, that you can begin to teach and train your children in the way that they should go.
Yeah.
And in the way that America should go, because you are the difference maker, and the decisions that we make will make the difference. So God bless you. Again, welcome to the Lionheart Institute podcast. I'm so glad you're a part of it. Please subscribe, comment, get engaged, and hit that notification bell. We want you to be a part of this community. God bless you, and thank you for being here.
See you soon.
See you soon.